In today's video, we're going to dive into EditorX and start building this product website for this wine company. EditorX is an advanced responsive web creation platform made for designers and agencies. It's a super powerful tool. If you want to check it out, there's a link down in the description. They're sponsoring today's video, so thanks to EditorX. Let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So here in EditorX, let's go ahead and create a new site. I'm just going to start with a blank canvas. So with our blank site, we have a section in the center and our master header and footer for us to work with. For our design, we're not going to use this master header just because I'm going to put my navigation inside of my main hero section, which is going to be our first section here. Also, we have these handles on the side, so I'm just going to scale this website in, making sure I keep it in the desktop view. But I want to make sure that when I open these panels on the left and the right for the inspector and the quick add, for example, I don't want to cover too much of my website just to speed up my workflow just a little bit. So our page is in a dark theme, so I'm just going to quickly select the section and go to page here in the breadcrumbs to make sure I have that selected. And we'll just apply our custom color by clicking the plus, and we'll just say 1C, 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 which is the black color we're using in our design. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and update our footer master. And I'm just going to hit edit text. And I'm just going to paste in my copyright information. And I'm also going to set this to a paragraph 3. And we're going to update this style to Poppins and extra light. And for now, we're going to leave it at 14 size. We may need to adjust that later. And let's also apply a straight white color to it. Since we've updated paragraph 3, you'll see the little asterisk here. If we click the drop down arrow, we can update our theme and apply that theme. So everywhere we use paragraph 3, it's going to apply that same styling. And this is using our theme manager. So we can open that by this tab right here. And we can manage our typography and colors of our site with these, just to speed up our workflow and to keep us from having to style things repetitively. So let's go ahead and select our first section. And with most of my hero sections on websites, I like to apply a 100 viewport height. So I'm just going to type in 100 VH. And so the height of our web browser is going to determine the height of this section. And we'll just leave the minimum height at maybe 700, just so that it doesn't collapse too small, because we're going to have a fairly tall image here on the right. So to add our first element, I'm just going to go to the Add Elements panel and go to Media, and then let's upload some of our files. I've already exported all of my images and assets from Adobe XD, so I'm just going to drag and drop those in here. Once everything's uploaded, I'm just going to select my first image and add it to the page. Next, I'm going to select the section itself and apply a grid, and let's just do a 2x1 grid. So we have 2 columns. And I'm just going to drag my image into the right side column and click the stretch button, and it's going to fill that entire column. For the left-hand side, let's go ahead and add our first H1 and our button. So go to the quick add, and then we'll just go title, and I'm going to edit the text and select heading 1. So for our heading 1, we're going to use a Poppins semi-bold, and I'm actually going to select this icon for scale text. And this is the range at which our text is going to automatically scale for different breakpoints for us. So the maximum size it can be is going to be, let's go with a maximum size of 60, which we're on the desktop view, so that's how large it's going to be. And then for the smallest size, let's go with 36. I'm also going to change the color to a straight white color, and then let's apply some of our text from our design. Now that I think I've made all my changes, I'm just going to update my theme and apply the theme. So now all of our H1s will have that exact styling. Let's just drag out the width a little bit. Going back to the Add panel and grab a button and just drag and drop it in. And for our text, place in order. And if we head back over to our design, let's just grab our main pink color that we're using and just copy that. And then we'll click the paintbrush here for design, go to fill, and then we'll just add a new color and we'll paste that in. I'm just going to drag it straight below our heading and just give it a little bit of space there. And then with that selected, I'm going to hold Shift and grab the text. So since we have this multi-selected, we can add this as a stack. To quickly explain what the stack is doing, it's allowing you to control the relationship between these two elements by putting them in a flex container. So that's going to prevent this button from ever overlapping this heading. So you can see the highlight of our spacing here in this stack, showing us that this space is going to be respected, and it's going to make sure that is maintained throughout different sizes in our design. So with that stack selected, I'm just going to drag it to the center of this grid. And to make sure that it's centered, I'm going to go over here to the inspector, and you can just click the second one to align to center. It's going to make sure it's perfectly centered inside of there. Our hero section is very basic, so this is pretty much all we need besides the actual navigation itself. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click the Add Elements button and go to Quick Add and just drop in a basic container. I'm going to drag this basic container all the way to the top of the canvas, and let's just give it a height of about 75. That'll work perfectly. And I'm going to go to the width, and I'm just going to set this to 90%, just so we have some spacing on the left and the right side of 5%. Inside of here, we're going to need two things. We're going to need our logo on the side, so we can go to Add Element, Media, and I'm just going to grab my logo, and I'm going to set this to a fixed size because I don't want this to change at all. And then I'm going to drag it all the way over to the left-hand side of the container and make sure it's centered vertically. So let's just align that properly. And I want this to dock on the left and probably the top as well. Next, let's add a menu. So I'm going to go to the menu section and just grab this straight text menu and drop it in. So now that's inside of my container. I'm just going to align it to the right side. So we'll just make sure that's aligned there and centered vertically. So we can select Manage Menu, and we're going to have a home button by default. So I'm going to click these three dots and actually change this link. Since we're only having a one-page product page, I'm just going to use anchors so that when people click these links, it's going to scroll them to different sections of the page. So for now, we're just going to leave all of them set to top of the page just because we don't have any anchors set up. We're going to do that later. So I'm just going to hit done, and then I'm going to change the name of this. So we have Vintage Wine. We'll add another link. Same thing, make it an anchor. Currently shipping. And then finally, we have one more link to add for placing an order. So we have all three of our links temporarily set up. Let's go and add some style. So I'm going to click the design, and I want to go to the text and change the color to white since we have a dark colored background. I also want to change the style of these to Poppins, extra light, and bump them down to 14 pixel font. So now let's adjust the layout. So I'm going to click the layout button. So I'm going to align the text to the left, and I'm going to untoggle both of these and align this to the right, just so our navigation is on the right side. And I'm also going to scale this up a bit, just so we have a larger container, just because we only have this logo over here on the left. So that's going to do it for our navigation. We just need to select the container itself, change the design style, and remove the border. So I'm just going to put that to 0% opacity and 0 pixel width. So that's pretty much the section done. One thing I want to do is just check to make sure that everything is docked properly. So I'm going to go into the inspector, and here with this container selected, I'm just going to dock it on the left and the right. So that's going to change this to fluid. If you notice, that slid over. So what docking is going to do is it's going to determine the vertical and horizontal position of elements within the section, container, or grid cell when the screen is resized. So now when I resize my design, so if I grab one of these handles and scale it down, docking is just going to make sure that it keeps that distance on the left and the right. So we want to make sure we're docking things appropriately. So I'm going to select my stack and just make sure I have the docking on the left. So these are just helping me align things inside of each section. So this is determining the position based on the top and the left for this element. And for the image, we don't need to do any of our docking because that's already done for us since it's stretched to the full section size. We just need to change the focal point to exactly where we want it to be. So when it scales down, I want to make sure that I get this bottom of the box kind of always in the view. So I'm just going to drag the focal point down just a little bit. So let's move on to our next section. So here at the bottom of our hero, we can hit Add Section. And let's go with a CSS Grid just by clicking Grid there. And I'm going to do a 2x2 grid and apply that. If we go back to our Adobe XD design, so here in our design, we have this image on the right and then these two cells here on the left. So let's quickly add an image. So I'm going to go up to Quick Add and just drag in an image. I'm going to make sure my image is in both of these cells on the right so I can stretch that to fill them out. I'm also going to go into the grid itself. So here I can select Adjust Grid with the section selected, and I'm going to edit the grid. I want to specify the height of these cells. So I'm just going to drag down on these two bars to about 450 pixels in size, just so both of these cells have some good room to them. So I'm just going to drag this one down to 450 and done to apply. Now we need a container for each one of these. So quick add and just drop a container in and stretch it to fill that first grid cell. And we'll do that again for the bottom left. So first, let's do the top grid cell. Heading back over to our design, I'm going to select this background color and just copy that hex code. And with our container selected, let's select design, go to fill, and just apply a custom color code of our blue color. And we also need to remove the border of that container. And for the one below it, we'll just make sure that it is white and that we remove the border as well. First, for our blue section, let's quick add a title. And this is going to say 2014 vintage. And we could do this in a smaller heading, such as a heading 6. But since we already have the paragraph 3 set up, I'm just going to use that since it's the exact same styling. So now that we have that in there, let's also add another title and just paste in some text. And for this one, we're going to use the heading 2 since it's a step down from our heading 1. And with this one, we're going to set it to a scaled text, and we're going to scale it up from 24 to a max size of 36. Also going to change this to a white color, and then we'll update our theme. So now we have our H2 and our H1 styled. Just going to drag this slightly below the smaller title. And then finally, let's add a button, and we'll change the text to place in order. So we have these vertical elements here. So let's select the button, hold shift, and grab both of the text and convert them to a stack. Same thing here with the stack selected. We'll go to the inspector and center it inside of this grid cell. And with this one, we're going to change the docking just to the exact. And with this one, we're just going to make sure the docking is set to center. For the next grid cell, let's add in a paragraph this time. And we'll copy and paste in our type from our design. And with this, we're going to set this to paragraph 1. Poppin's Extra Light, and we're going to scale this font from 22 all the way up to a size of 30. And with that, we can update our paragraph. Just going to make sure it is centered inside of this grid cell. And finally, let's grab our image and we'll just change it to our product photo. And we'll set the focal point. And we have our second section now done. That's going to do it for part 1, building a website using EditorX. Thanks to EditorX for sponsoring today's video. I'll see you guys in the next video where we finish building this website. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.